we're told, about to put the Kremlin on notice, warning President Vladimir Putin that our government will punish Russia for its interfering with the U.S. presidential election. Well, our next guest saying 99% of the U.S. Senate believe Russia was behind the cyber hacking, and by doing so, Moscow could undermine our very democratic values unless Washington takes action. Joining us right now from Riga, Latvia, where they're on a tour of the Baltic states, including Estonia and Lithuania tomorrow, are Senators Lindsey Graham, a fellow Republican on the committee, and Senator John McCain, chairman of the Armed Services Committee. Senators, thank you so much for joining us this morning from Latvia. Good to see you. Senator McCain, let me start with you. What type of action do you expect? I mean, will there be sanctions, cyber retaliation? How can Moscow get a serious and meaningful message, do you think?
Well, first of all, we ought to have a policy, which this administration does not have, which then comes a strategy to defeat these attacks, which this administration has never done, much to our frustration. You can do a number of things. One, increase the sanctions on Russia for this misbehavior. I would make sure we have a permanent presence here in the Baltic countries. As you can imagine, they're very concerned. I think I would give defensive weapons to Ukraine so they can defend themselves against further Russian attacks on their homeland, and make sure that Vladimir Putin knows that this kind of action in the future will be responded to. So far, he's gotten away with whatever he has wanted to do. We need a firm policy.
Senator Graham, the president said he told Putin right there, we're seeing the video, to cut it out, and that they apparently stopped that. Do you think that's enough?
When it comes to Obama and Putin has cleaned his clock. In terms of Obama taking action, I don't think it'll do any good. The bottom line is you need to hit Russia in a sustained fashion. So if Obama tries to do something going out the door that's not sustained, then you send the wrong signal. Here's what I would prefer. Let the new Congress and the new president deal with Russia, pass new sanctions much tougher than the ones we already have. I would hit them hard. I would put their energy sector under sanction. I would name Putin as an individual in his inner circle. Let them be sanctioned in terms of their money and their travel. They have a weak economy. They're about the size of Spain. So the only way Putin's going to change if he feels the pain. If I were President Trump, I would call President Obama and say, don't start something that you can't finish. Let Trump and the new Congress do this.
Well, what if they retaliate even stronger? I mean, Senator McCain, if we take a strong action, could that boomerang?
Well, you've got two choices. You can either passively accept these kinds of gross violations. Look, if you're able to change the results of an election, then you have undermined the very fundamentals of democracy. This is of the utmost seriousness, what they have done, and everybody knows they have done it. Now, the question about whether it affected the election or not, I don't believe that it did, but set that aside. So this is of the utmost seriousness. There was a president once that said peace through strength, and we attained peace, and it was only through strength. This administration has passively observed Vladimir Putin invade countries, violate international law, basically act in reckless abandon, but more importantly, with threats to the security of the United States of America. Vladimir Putin is a thug and a bully and a murderer. He understands strength, and that's all that he understands. And we're still the strongest nation on earth. We just have to do it right.
Senator Graham, Senator McCain is right. I mean, this undermines our very democratic values, affects our sovereignty, and is a threat to the republic. I mean, what do you say to the doubters out there? And there are people watching you now who don't buy this.
Well, you doubt at your own peril. Here's what I would tell people. Learn from history. Don't repeat the mistakes of history. Anytime in Europe you let one country grab land by force, you'll live to regret it. The rule of law is sacrosanct to me. If Scotland wants to break away from the UK, there's a process for that to be had. Crimea was taken by force. And if you don't hit Russia hard for interfering in our elections, and I agree with Senator McCain, they didn't affect the outcome, but they definitely hacked into the DNC and the Podesta's emails to my Republican friends. It could be us next. If you give Russia a pass, and if we get tough with Iran and China like Trump says he will, and we need to, they could hack into the next election. So we need to let all the adversaries of America know that if you're in our elections, you're going to pay a heavy price. And those who doubt that we shouldn't retaliate, then you really don't understand the world at all.
And can I just add,
go ahead.
After World War II was over, we have, could I just say, 70 years, we have had a new world order, and it's been relatively peaceful. What we are allowing Vladimir Putin to do is undermine that world order. You are in danger of seeing the European Union come apart. You're seeing strains caused by the refugees, which is the Syrian problem, which was Vladimir Putin was one of the ones mainly responsible for our failure in Syria, and a total and abysmal failure. And so that world order has to be maintained. Vladimir Putin is a threat to that. I would hope that our European allies would understand this threat and would join us in this effort to curb these reckless behavior by Vladimir Putin.
You are, Senators, on a tour of the Baltic states in Estonia now. There are, about 150 American troops. What is the message to Putin and to Moscow of this specific visit, why you are there over your Christmas holidays, to tell Moscow, to tell Russia, especially after the invasion of Ukraine and his continued aggressiveness? Let me start with you, Senator Graham.
Well, the first thing that we want to give a message to is to our friends in the Baltics, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, that we're here to show our solidarity with you. You're NATO members, you're democratic states. We understand that Russia has had a massive buildup on your border, that we support keeping troops here on a permanent basis, even though they may be rotational. I'm creating an account in the Appropriations Committee that I'm in charge of to counter Russian aggression outside of the military, propaganda, cyber attacks. So we want to tell our Baltic friends that we stand with you. We want Russia to know that the American Congress is going to stand by our allies, and that when it comes to Putin and Russia's aggression toward democracies, including ours, you're about to pay a big price. Here's what I predict. There will be a bipartisan vote in the United States Senate early next year to sanction Russia for interfering in our elections and trying to interfere in democratic elections all over the world, including the Baltics.
And quickly, Senator McCain, the same?
The same, and a permanent U.S. president. That doesn't mean a permanent basing, but it means a permanent rotation of American troops into the Baltic countries so that they can be assured that we are committed to their independence and freedom. And very frankly, we're hearing that from them, that they want a permanent American presence so they can train, arm, equip, and work closely. These are wonderful little countries, my friend, and they're brave and they're courageous and they're independent, but they're under enormous pressure, and they need American presence and American support. We need to give them that message, and I can't give them a message from the President of the United States, but I can sure speak for the overwhelming majority of my colleagues in the Senate, both Republican and Democrat.
They seem to stand.
And I would just conclude, when the Baltic states, when they see an American flag flying in their country with American troops under that flag, it's the most reassuring thing we could do for our friends in the Baltics.